Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavai Tejasvinavaditam Astuma Vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So welcome to the 15th chapter, or it's a continuation of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. First of all, may that protect us both, may that one nourish us both, may we work well conjointly together, may our study be vigorous and effective, may we not mutually cavil or unnecessarily disagree with each other, and peace, peace, peace be on all. At the commencement of the 15th chapter, I mentioned how important and significant it was, a kind of culmination, in a sense, of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In fact, in this 15th chapter, the 20th stanza, that is the last stanza in the chapter, tells us, Ite kuhyat tamam shastram idam uktam maya naka. This teaching of mine that has been given over this 15th chapter has this most profound teaching been imparted by me. So in this short chapter, the 15th chapter, we find a most profound teacher by the Lord Krishna, a most profound teaching for all of us, culmination in a sense of the whole of the Bhagavad Gita. And so what we have, 16th chapter, 17th chapter, elucidating about the importance of nature and the components of nature, imparting to us the distinction between values which are good, bad, different aspects of faith, and then a final culmination, a final summary in the 18th chapter. Ited Bhuta Buddhimam Shat Krita Krityascha Bharata. Knowing this teaching, says Sri Krishna, one becomes enlightened. An astonishing statement. If you know this teaching, you'll become enlightened, says the Lord. And so that is the significance of this 15th chapter. Supposing you have never joined us for any of the previous sessions on this Bhagavad Gita, yet you join us for this 15th chapter, you'll find tremendous value, a tremendous treasure in this. School children here at the secondary level are learning to study, probably for the first time, this text of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, because it's a very short scripture, and yet within it, such depth, such a profound system of teachings are available to us, and they're all practical. Now, last week we entered into a phase dealing with the immanence of what we were calling the Paramatman. So let us pick up this teaching, and we go from immanence to the deeper aspects. Don't forget, this chapter is called Purushottama Yoga. Nowhere else in any of the scripture will you find this concept of Purushottama, this supreme being. And so the stanza begins like this, 12th stanza. And if you have your Bhagavad Gita with you, then you can follow the text with me. So we begin. Yad aditya gatam tejo jagad vasayate kiram. Yach chandramasi yach cha nyau tat tejo viti mamakam. Yat aditya gatam, that light, that yat aditya gatam, residing in aditya, the sun, illumines the whole world. That which is in the moon and in the fire, know that light to be mine. In the Christian gospel, we find a very important concept equivalent to this, which tells us that a phrase, light of lights, light of all lights. And here we go a step further. We say that that one shining, all else shines. What is it that shines? So I'm reviewing some of what we studied last week. The eyes shine. Why? Because there's a shining element within it. We tend to think of things in a very fragmented way. You are this person, you're that person. We have scope then to argue with the person. But when we see this holistic aspect of everything, we see that all is one. And this comes to us by Krishna very clearly and carefully describing links. What are the links mentioned? Firstly, he says, I, Krishna, that light which is residing in the sun, know that light to be whose? To be mine. A wonderful exposition. This very entity that came down, as it were, this cosmic mind that entered, is one with that light that lights everything and everywhere. Coming for our convenience, coming for our enlightenment, coming to bring dharma where there is adharma. So we find a light residing in the sun. I'm not sure if the ancient people knew or understood the science of sun and sunshine, but they knew this much. Everything comes from the sun. They had a dedicated worship to the sun, Surya. When we do the physical exercise, we start off with chanting Gayatri Mantra, and then repeating a whole series of sounds relating to a worship of the sun. And we do a sun salutation. And in Western countries, it's well known. Salutation to the sun, Surya Namaskar. We begin this. Every time we see and witness the sun rising in the morning, it gives us the opportunity to make a salutation to this life giver. And as I mentioned before, all the properties we give to a personal God, we also find in the sun. It lights every corner. It is a life giver. It is radiant. It is beautiful. It knows every corner, as I say. It is omniscient. It's omnipresent to us in any event. And so without the solar energy, we have nothing. We all are running on canned sunshine. So it illuminates the whole world for us, and that which is in the moon, that is, that which is reflected two bodies we see, one in the day and one at night, and in the fire. We light the fire. Modern equivalent is electricity. We turn a switch on and there it is. We're able to study by night, or we're able to have a conversation by night. In the early days, where only fire was there, it was an opportunity for people to gather around the fire, an opportunity to tell many, many different tales and stories, to relieve the pressures of the day. That light is mine. And so there's a beautiful statement. You see, the sun will die one day. But what is the thing that always remains and lights it from within? When all the hydrogen is exhausted, that sun is now halfway through its life, some 4.5 billion years or so. And another 4.5 billion years, it'll develop into a dwarf. And not only that, but the whole earth will be destined for destruction. And the sun will, first of all, get huge, and then it'll die. We can predict, we know what happens by studying other dwarf stars, what happens in the demise of this. And so what is it that lights it is always remaining. This sun of ours is only on a temporary loan to us. And while we have it, we should surely have some worshipful attitude toward it. Now, all of this is indicative of a position, a starting position that tells us that where is God? God is inside. There's an immanence to it. And if we're able to catch that, then from the practical point of view, we relieve many difficulties and pressures. I told you, Bhagavad Gita is a practical text. It is not just theorizing. It's not just merely giving us principles. Principles are there, no doubt, but it gives us a way of implementing it. It gives us a certain poetry. It gives us a source of meditation. We can meditate on the sun, and we can imitate the sun. That is, we can imitate the qualities of the sun, and we can bring the sun in our imagination within us. And we can feel our identity with the sun as a radiating presence that finds itself everywhere, radiating all the noble qualities of truth and goodness and beauty and love and harmony everywhere. And we should be doing it in an age where this virus has been an obsession for everybody. People require some kind of upliftment, some kind of positivity is there or needs to be there, and we find it in these particular teachings. So how, you see, there are two rooms lit by the sun, we can say. One of them happens to be vacant on the one side, and there is none to recognize or cognize the existence of the sunlight in it. That's on the one side. The feeling I am is not in that light as well. And the existence or the non-existence of the sunlight in a room, it makes no difference. And we can't say if the world explodes itself, it gets into difficulty, if we destroy the ecology of the planet, we can't say blame it on the sun. We can't blame it on some assumed external entity. God, it's your fault. The sun shines regardless of what we do. It's entirely up to us. And so he witnesses his own existence and the existence of the sunlight in that room. And the insentient light that comes from the sun, the moon, and the fire is cognized by the sentient light or the cosmic consciousness, the light of all lights, that supreme light. If you view this in this way, then won't you find that everything that is lit becomes sacred? Because two aspects are there to this lighting. The one is that the sun has to come in the form of photons, 8 minutes late from the sun because of the distance. And that has to be transferred and translated. It has to be cognized on our side. And the ultimate witness of that whole process is sitting there. And that is the light that lights everything. It's a remarkable way of understanding things and a remarkable flash, a kind of internal aha when we realize, yes, that's it. So further, the Atma Chaitanya, the consciousness that is in yourself, is the life of lives. And the how of it comes about now in the next stanza. Gam avishya cha bhutani taraya yam yaham ojasa. Ojas, technical term for cosmic energy. Pushnami chau sadhi sarvaha samo bhutva satmakaha. Gam, this earth, entering the earth. Previously you had seen it is present in light, present in the sun, present in the moon. And the moon is significant, not just as a light, a lamp, but it's seen by the ancient people to be something like a watery substance. Mainly because when we look in water, we find our image is reflected. In that same way, when we look at the sun, we find it has no light of its own. And it's reflected light from the sun. So it's seen poetically to be of a watery kind of substance. But there's no doubt it has a direct relationship between the things that grow, the herbs that grow, the seasons, the seasons related to growth under the soil and above the soil both. Of course, the sun is responsible for the leaves. but the behind the scenes growth is connected with the moon, and the moon is connected with the mind, and the mind is connected with sacrifice. And the word is soma, somo, soma, the nectar that is associated with the moon, and sacrifice, intention. All of these are associated, beautiful terms that we need to try to understand when we read these passages. But entering into the earth, we're reminded of those passages in the Upanishads that tell us that having made the earth, I entered into it. Imagine this earth, at some point it was not there, it wasn't spinning. You can imagine how some internal entity is sitting there already. Supposing the earth removes itself, supposing the sun removes itself, what is there? This entity that we call Brahman is there. And then weaving a web of, or a cocoon as it were, around itself, entering into it, making it and entering into it. So entering the earth. Why should this be described in this way? I support all beings. I am the internal, the inner controller, the antaryaman, the inner controller. What a comforting thing to know that we are supported. When we do the yoga exercise, afterwards we do a little yoga nidra, that is to withdraw the mind as much as possible in a kind of stage in meditation called pratyahara, where we withdraw all our attention from the senses and from their extension, the objects, and come to a position of deep sleep, as it were. This is a yoga nidra, and yet we are awake. If you're snoozing, you did it wrong. You're blanking the mind off. The idea is not to fill the mind with tamas, ignorance and darkness. The idea is to be a witness, watching a potential area of creativity from which we can then construct a number of different poetic things. We use this technique, of course, in meditation, because in meditation, having withdrawn the mind from the external world, we are now free to create an internal world, a kind of dream scene. There are many saints, you'll be surprised to know, who didn't have very good concentration. And how did they manage their meditation, the deepest, intimate way of direct contact with your own inner self, your own Atman? It is through the use of creative imagination, poetry, artistic way of thinking, constructing imagination, fantasy, scenes which are delightful to the mind, that lead the mind to a transcendent position. And so we can, with all these passages, imagine some beautiful things. The earth is not there. And then what is there? Lord of the universe stands there and weaves a cocoon around itself. And now we have the earth, and because of its presence, supports, which is why we don't fly off anywhere. The principle of gravity that we can easily define. When I raise my hand like this, I have just gone against gravity. An anti-gravitational thing happened. So gravity is not a very strong force, but everywhere, spread out throughout the entire universe. It is the strongest force we have. And so it is a support. We are supported. And think of this now, so that when we do this yoga nidra at the end of the yoga exercise, I say some significant things. Feel that you are supported. Feel that you are nourished. Feel that you are nurtured. Because of this statement, I support all beings. By what? By my energy. And the universal term for it is ojas. Now we know, of course, in science, that essentially there's only one energy. Einstein managed to jointly create an appendix in 1905, and a remarkable equation was put out. this famous E equals mc squared. Now, if we understand what this equation means, we won't worry about the c squared. Those who bother about it may misinterpret the equation. It really means that energy and the mass of matter are equivalents. And when you have something that is equivalent, you take the subtlest thing, energy. Everything is energy. And what kind of energy? Potential energy. Gravitational energy is potential energy. Electrical energy is potential energy. Nuclear forces are potential energy. But you can't have this energy, that energy. And so the ancient people, the ancient Vedic people, the ancient yogic people understood very clearly that there's only one energy. Swami Vivekananda was keen to demonstrate this fact. And of course, in those days, we didn't call it energy, they called it force, was the common term. And he was friends with Nikola Tesla, as we know. And he writes that he is expecting Nikola Tesla, after a conversation with him, to bring out such a formula. And if he could do that, he could demonstrate the validity of the yogic position, that everything is only this one cosmic energy that is called Ojas. And any other variation of this energy is just variations of the same energy, giving us, of course, a conservation law that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It remains as a constant. Just a transformational causation we see, one form being transformed into another. And so we understand that there's potential energy, and this potential energy is recombined, as it were, and varied and made into a kinetic energy. It swings into a kinetic energy. When you swing a pendulum, you're taking it from potential energy, that is gravitational energy, to kinetic energy and back again. And radiational energy is another expression of it. Nuclear energy is another expression of it. Electromagnetism is another expression of it. But one energy is there. And what is the practical relation to ourselves in spiritual life? When we see only this one energy there and call it whatever we like, we can call it Shakti, we can call it Parashakti, we can call it Adya Shakti, that is the highest energy. We can call it the primordial energy. These beautiful terms are available to us, but it is the one energy that is expressing itself. And so, having become, not just entered into, but become the sapid moon, understanding that the moon is seen to be a watery thing, something like a liquid. I nourish all the herbs. Don't think that you watered your garden and you did the nourishment. The moon had a role in it, and I have come as this sapid moon. And it's evident all over nature that one form of energy would transform itself into another. And when we look at things, when we make a close investigation, it's found that there can be no demarcation made between organic, inorganic forms of energy, sentient, insentient. A life on Earth thrives by converting light and heat of the sun into sentient energy. It's always a difficulty for people in the scientific community to understand how we go from a geologic form of existence to an organic form of life. What is the transition? And there are many kind of speculations on this, but obviously, it is obvious to anybody really that some kind of teleological thrust is there, some kind of organizational capacity is there. Only to the most hardened materialist is it not evident. And so this energy pervades the entire universe and holds it intact. The movable and the immovable, they do all get their sustenance from it. Life energy comes in one form, say from the sun, and quite another different form from the moon, and the sapidity of the vegetables or the vegetable kingdom on earth is obtained from this. Now, what next? What is the third stage, if you will, of life energy that comes? Life energy comes from this divine principle, and we find then this explained in the next stanza, abiding in the body of living beings. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha Prana Parna Samayukta Pachyam Yanam Chaturvidam. Prana and Aparna. Of course, in the body, 5 pranas are identified. As a force within the body, that is, the whole of this energy, when it comes to the human body, has the capacity for ruling the upper portion of the body, the downward movement, and then an equalizing portion, and then an overall portion, and then an upward portion that goes off this way. These 5 pranas are there. But when we simplify it and introduce a certain polarity to it, we can say that prana, that is upward moving, and aparna, the opposite, going up and going down, like an elevator, you see. You get into a lift. There's no question of you going horizontally. It's just you want to go from the first floor up to the 42nd floor, and there's no need to take any zigzags. So this prana, this aparna, describes the whole thing. You covered all the floors if you do this. You can drop off anywhere you like and explore any floor you choose. So abiding in the body of living beings, it's always a question. What is life? What is life is a profound question. We brought this question up last week, I think it was. But what is life? And there are big conferences everywhere to explore. What is life? How will we define it? If something responds to something else, is it life? Life, according to physics, is one definition, but it has no bearing on sentiency. Life in the biological world has another meaning. It means not only this response, but reproduction also has to be there. And when you combine these sciences and make a biophysics, you have to try to look at things from all kinds of different angles and get new perspectives. And maybe that brings you a little closer to your understanding. But think about this most profound thing. This Vaishvanara, this digestive fire, digestion and the fire of digestion are seen to be the same. It's seen to be that there is a digestive fire. Let us look at this again. The sun, the lightning, the moon, the fire, the digestive fire. Can you see there's a connectivity between all of this? But it's the Lord himself who digests your food. Many of you will know a standard thing I always say, a question to young ones, and a question to old ones too. Who digests your food? When people come to me for some kind of consultancy or counseling, it might be a first question I ask. I might ask, do you believe in God? If they say no, then my approach will be different. If they say yes, then my approach will be different again. But in all cases, I might ask this question, who digests your food? It's quite clear that when you put food in here, you don't follow it with a spoon and give it a good stir. It is not you that digests your food. Small children will be asked this question. So I have covered this on previous occasions. It is the Lord himself who digests your food. Now, what is the implication of it? Of course, 4 kinds of food are there. See how scientifically it is done. Food that can be chewed, for something that can be sucked, licked, and swallowed. These are the 4 variations. We can see it covers everything that enters into the digestive system. A digestive system is something like a factory with all the chemical ingredients supplied, and catalysts and all kinds of things designed to break down your food, contained in the saliva alone. Look at the marvel of the human body. There's no reason, from some people's point of view, mine included, purely a personal point of view, that there's no real reason when you study these passages for the body to fall ill, except our mismanagement. Because if the Lord digests your food from within, and the Lord sends energy upwards and energy downwards, and the Lord is therefore present in every single cell, and the Lord is behind the eye that sees, and the Lord is behind the photons that come to the eyeball, and the Lord is lighting everything, and the Lord is the living entity within you that provides life. Where can things go wrong? How can things go wrong? Of course, the external thing, its causes can make something go wrong. But left to itself, how can this body become defective? Even if foreign material goes past the mucous lining, it sits in the stomach, hydrochloric acid sits there, and the Lord himself is digesting and sorting things out. And surely a small vote of thanks should be there. Lord, you digested my food. Last night I ate some awkward things. I was careless in my eating. But Lord, you love me so much. You yourself digested my food. And not only that, but you sorted the whole mess out. The body has a way of knowing that is the Lord in the body when we say this. Body is just insentient matter until the Lord, the sentient entity, sits in it. And that Lord within enables the digestion. Not just digestive fire, but it's a short-term way of describing the whole of the digestive process, a very complex process that ends up in energy being transferred to a cellular level through the magic of ADP, ATP, and so on. Breaking this down into an energetic way of transferring energy to the body for our use. And it's the Lord who's doing this all, whether we are good, whether we're bad, whether we're moral, whether we're not, continuously doing it. And in one of my small thoughts published, I simply asked this question: who digests your food? And why does that entity digest it? Because he has a purpose for you, not a bad investor. So what a marvelous thing it is, although put in a short stanza like this, what a marvelous thing is contained that 4 kinds of food get masticated and sucked and dealt with, licking, swallowing, all this mechanism is available to assist in digestion, and recognizing that the act of taking this in, absorbing it in this way, in 4 kinds of ways, the digestion process itself begins. And this is given to us for one purpose, that we may realize and give glory and thanks to that entity that religion calls God, that here is called Krishna, and that is this eternal loving entity whose grace is flowing everywhere. What a wonderful glory this is. So people who know me will understand this is one of my most favorite passages because it's practical. When you eat food, should you not be thankful? Lord, thank you for digesting my food. When we say traditionally the passage that is taken from the 4th chapter of this Bhagavad Gita, that this Brahmapanam, Brahmahavi, and so on, that we see this entity in all things, including this digestive fire. We're pouring this into the internal fire, this Lord Vaishvana. And so food is taken in, food is digested with this grace, and nutrients are assimilated, converted into energy use, and the waste product is taken off. All done efficiently, without even a letter saying, you know what, a little bit of thanks would go a long way. Not demanding anything like that, never going on strike. never asking for any reward. Surely this will lead us to one conclusion, that this is love. When religion says God is love, and many religions say it, we can understand it through this simple statement. And so there are the other benign ways in which the Lord is present in beings. And so they are recounted here. What are they? The beautiful passages in this 15th chapter. Sarvasya chaham hradi samnivishto mataha smrtye jnanam apohanam cha. Vedescha saver aham eva vidyo. We're taking two passages, two lines of this. Vedanta kra vedavit eva chaham. So, Sarvasya chaham hradi samnavisto. I am seated where? In the hearts of all. You can't get any deeper area than the heart. And not just one, but all. Remember the 13th chapter. I am the knower in all the fields. So all, from me are various things. Oh, I forgot this. Yes, the fact that you remember means your internal librarian called the Lord brought out the right file and said, here you are. And we say, oh, I have good memory. We make a claim on it. So it goes on like that, you see. Mataha smrtir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in the hearts of all. From me are memory, knowledge, as well as their loss. I forgot. Oh, the Lord didn't bring the file out. I am truly that which has to be known. By what? By all the Vedas. Vedas representing the vast body of knowledge, internal, external, all the factual science, all the understandings about linguistics, all the facts of life, as modern science itself is revealing to us. Veda, vid, to know, to see, something that is absolutely factual and truthful coming out. But the supreme science of it all, the Lord is the author of the perennial truth which underlies everything. That is the end of all this knowledge. This is called Vedanta. So I am truly that which has to be known by all the Vedas. All your knowledge, scientific, non-scientific, is leading to this one conclusion. All our scientific evidence is going to point to this fact. Lord, you are there. It has to, there's no other way. Otherwise, you are left with unanswered questions. And nobody in science should be satisfied with unanswered questions. And yet we cannot get to the answer because the answer is so subtle and so transcendent, beyond a warp and woof, as it is called, beyond a weaving of things in time and space and causation and function. And we already have evidence of something, even material, which is like that. And so, I am indeed what? The author of the Vedanta. As well as the knower of the Vedas, I am omniscient already. Nothing more to be known by me. If the Lord had to know something extra or something they didn't know, we could call this the Lord. So the Lord resides as consciousness in the hearts of all. Just to summarize, memory of what has been done before is possible. Why? Because of this very consciousness. Knowledge, or the faculty of understanding as to how to react to the changing circumstances, is there. And this power also comes from this very internal aspect of consciousness. And just as the unwanted old records get destroyed, deleted, if we use computer language, then the purposeless retention in memory and the aimless fostering of unwanted knowledge, these are all done away with. Why? Because of the proximity of this thing called consciousness. Consciousness is seen to be the hard problem from a philosophical, neurobiological point of view. The various cosmic functions and the knowledge pertaining to them are all put together. This is all collectively called what we call the Vedas. It is this Paramatman, this revealing himself as nature. See, as nature. Everything in nature is in its own way expressing the glory of this one entity, Ishvara. That is why I say scientific investigation will surely stand in awe and wonder at the glory that is manifest and show a signpost. There must be something behind it, something behind it, something behind it, some barrier beyond which we can't go, and we have to draw the line and resort then to the mystic insights, to meditation, to scriptural study and assertion, to the experience of others, in other words. So through the things that are impermanent, that being's permanency is posited. His omniscience is evinced everywhere in nature by things sentient and insentient. This Anandam Brahman, that he is bliss. And this is all testified by what? The entire nature, wherever we look. This is the idea of it. So to all of these truths, which is known as collectively the Vedas, Ishvara himself, God himself, is the knower of these Vedas. Now the Paramatman in all his forms is now beautifully being explained and elucidated on. So we have various facets of Brahman, and there's a continuation of many other descriptions useful in evoking a feeling within us of wonder, of awe and thankfulness. It's a practical thing. Practical because unless you fill the mind in this way, what is the alternative? I'm in trouble, what a pity, pessimism, dealing with life from a negative point of view. I'm in a hole, Lord, please get me out. Make God a rescuer. So some beautiful passages are here, continuing on earlier passages that we saw. 7th chapter, for example, begins this elucidation. Dvav imam purushao loke, ksharascha kshara evata, ksharaha sarvani bhutani, kutasto kshara uchate. A remarkable statement is being made here. There are two selves, there are two persons, there are two purushas. There are two purushas in this world. We can describe them as the perishable one and the imperishable one. What is the perishable one? I'm pausing so that you can answer, of course, and I can't hear whether you're answering or not. Of course, the perishable one is this very universe, this very cosmos. And the imperishable, all beings are the perishable, and the word is this kutashta, is called the imperishable. You see, what we call the jivatman is the individualized consciousness. And since there is a beginning and an end to the process of this fractionization or individualization, is classified as kshara, perishable. Of course, he's not perishable, but he looks perishable. And we misunderstand it, we misidentify it. We say this is insentient, this is not us. Unfortunately, this way of thinking began with the well-meaning Descartes philosopher to say that there's a dualistic system. But this takes all this dualism away by saying it looks fragmented. What we see as the universe is nothing more than this apparently fragmented one single Purusha entity. The Jivatman being an Upadhi. In the Vedanta series, the question answer, I elucidated upon this word Upadhi because wherever we look, we find if this is one entity, then it is untraceable. Just like electricity is untraceable. You can't taste it, you can't lick it, you can't pin it down, you can't put it in a confined area. It is within a vast field. It is invisible to the eye, but yet it becomes visible by expression when we put something connected with it. This is called a upadhi. And traditionally we translate it as something that limits, but of course that is unlimited. You can't limit it, but you can use it on the other side, on the seeing side, the objective side. We can see it as a manifestor. Electricity being unseen, unsmelt, unheard of. You can't hear it, you can't taste it, you can't touch it. And yet when you put an adapter to it, it manifests as light, another adapter as heat, another adapter as something that rotates around a coil. All of these things are adapters. And all the things that we've mentioned are these various upadhis, these various factors, manifesting factors, if you will. By looking at its manifesting aspect, we get the clue to its other aspect, its imperishable aspect. So these upadhi, variations and varying upadhis, these are collectively also called Purusha. And the Jagat, and that is why I say I am a person, and shift our terminology. It's all very well philosophy telling us, no, thou art that, you are the imperishable Brahman and all that. As soon as I feel embodied, as the 12th chapter of this Bhagavad Gita tells us, then we should turn our hearts to God. We should love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, sing glorious songs and hymns to Him, elevated the mind to a joyous dance of worship, because we still feel that we are a Purusha separate, a person separate from everything else, embodied as we are. But there's a fundamental difference between all these jivas, that is this Atman connected with all these subtle bodies of experience and the mind, being associated with nature, Prakriti, or the illusion, as it were, the illusive presentation of nature that we call Maya, the world of contradictions, the inscrutability of what is there, and Ishvara, God, the Lord, doing the same. Ishvara is never enslaved, but the jivas seem to be. The jivas are all seemingly slaves to Maya, while Ishvara is eternally the Lord of it. This is the fundamental difference here. And so wielding power over Maya, Maya being its upadhi, he assumes various forms as if in sport. The wonderful concept. How will we explain this world of difficulties unless it's some kind of sport, some kind of play? Srimad Bhagavad tells us very vividly that this is a play on myself, says Lord Krishna. So he is therefore called this beautiful term Kutashta. And facets of this Ishvara assume, of course, various theological names. Sometimes we can call this Shiva or Narayana or Bhagavati. A question on Sunday was, what is the difference between the English word God, well, not really an English term, although it's been adopted in English, but let's say God, and the term Ishvara or Bhagwan or Brahman or any of these terms? Well, we are simply identifying various facets of this one entity and labeling it according to various attributes that inevitably we have to give and we see. So we find Shiva being an auspiciousness in the world. We see Narayana being the eternal waters, if you like, of existence, culminating in its finest evolutionary model of man. And Bhagavati, that is the supreme celestial being or Lord. And from the Vedic times up till now, this cosmic self, this cosmic entity, and we find it elucidated in such beautiful lines that we find in the Vedas, from the Purusha Suktam, the Naradhaya texts, we find all of these beautiful descriptions of one cosmic entity, one person. You look up somewhere, you'll see a finger moving somewhere, an eye moving somewhere. Look at the sun, it's one eye. Look at the moon, it's another eye. Look at the sun the stars are simply a sparkling, if you have an imagination, sparkling jewelry around the dark neck of the eternal Lord. See, this is where imagination has to take its place. So from the Vedic times up until now, this cosmic Purusha has undergone changes of names and forms. It itself never changed. But we put in, for ease of understanding, developed names and forms according to different cultures and attributes also, according to attitudes and attainments of the worshippers. Now the same Purusha, the same technical entity self, technical because I explained previously where this word Purusha is derived, provides scope for his being adored in a variety of ways. How wonderful it is, how necessary it is to have this point of view. When we see that there is only this one energy appearing in all these different forms, can we ever be ecologically ignorant or ecologically negligent? See the great, wonderful concern now with carbon footprints, with this increasing threat of greenhouse gases, and this, in many people's opinion, most people's opinion, man-made greenhouse effect and the warming of the planet, which will leave us in some disastrous modes. And already many people would have declared that they would have seen the effects of small increases in global temperatures. So it is necessary to worship this entity in a variety of ways according to our own propensity, our own liking. And this too is a necessary factor in this modern age and modern world, where people who should be espousing love and global love in the name of God and religion are fighting on the basis of exclusivism, saying, my aspect or my way of thinking of this transcendent entity that is immanent and glorious everywhere, this I'm holding on to, and mine is correct and yours is wrong. Sri Ramakrishna has this beautiful statement in connection with this to say, the skin, the pulp, the nut, and everything else in a fruit have all come from the same seed. Similarly, what we view as the sentient and the insentient and all forms of existence have come from the same source, the same God, the same Ishvara, the same Lord. And so let us see if we can portray this Paramatman. Utamaha Purushas Tvanyaha Paramatme Cha Udhartaha Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Pibartya Avyayast Ishvaraha. Uttamaha, the Supreme Purusha, the Supreme Purusha is taken as a distinct Supreme Purusha, and it is called this highest self, this is Paramatma, and also the indestructible Lord who pervades and sustains three worlds. We live in one world, but actually there are three worlds. And three worlds are put on various levels. Levels means we can view these three worlds in a Vedic context as this world here, this earth, this observable universe, and the one which is beyond, shining, and the interspace between. And this is also a beautiful concept. But in our own personal experience, we have these three aspects of consciousness. We evaluate everything from a waking point of view. We evaluate things from a dream as well, when we're in the dream, and evaluate it as only a dream from a waking state. And then a complete absence of time and space and motion, where there is a kind of contentedness, a kind of eternal peace, and we call this a dreamless sleep. So it is all this Ishvara, which is also, by the way, just to clarify terms, also called Saguna Brahman, not to confuse with Nirguna Brahman, but it's the same entity we understand. He is the Lord of Maya. That is, he is the Lord of the three gunas that I mentioned previously, that have a characteristic of hiding and projecting, but also of revealing. The Jivatmans and the Jagat, that is the world, is technical term for the thing that always changes, and his attributes. Whatever glory, whatever divine manifestations, whatever arresting attributes we are able to cognize with our purified intellect, which is the whole of religious endeavor, all these sublimities belong only to one entity, and that is this Ishvara, this God. Purushottama, this term, this Purushottama, is he who is beyond even these celestial grandeurs, even beyond any world we can imagine. Modifications find no place in that entity. He is the Nirguna Brahman. Prajnanam, contentless consciousness, pure consciousness, awareness. These are some of the epithets by which he is indicated. Is worth dwelling on. So, jnanam, contentless consciousness. When we slip into a dreamless sleep, we get a flavor for it. We say it was a blissful state. When we go into this yoga nidra that I described previously, we say it is something like a peaceful or blissful state. Its literal meaning is the sleep, yogic sleep. We get a flavor of this wonderful contentless consciousness that is pure consciousness. It is not actually it. It is just a flavor of it. Awareness, these are some of the epithets. He is indeterminate but intense consciousness. You can't identify what he is. He's always subjective. Subject. You can't say consciousness is this, consciousness is that. It makes it an object. But we can see the evidence of its expression in things like intelligence, sentiency, and external awareness, which we call consciousness. Limitations such as time, space, causation gain no access to him. Mahanarayana, Sadashiva, Parashakti, these are some of the theological names that we give, and there are many, many more in different cultures. In the Islamic tradition, there are many, many names for Allah. Sri Ramakrishna has this to say, and then this is the last. How does Brahman stay in the human body? He is like the piston in a syringe. While being in the body, he remains untouched and unaffected by it. Now, we'll leave off there, but next week we conclude this 15th chapter because we only have a few more stanzas to go. And then we'll also give an introduction to this 16th chapter, whereby we have to, in our experience, be discriminatory between the higher values and the higher things and the lower things, by the things which are noble and virtuous and the things which are not. So it's necessary to make a clarity, a moral clarity in this. And this is what the next chapter is dedicated to. So with these small comments on this wonderful and profound 15th chapter, we conclude. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Love and blessings.